DC. Meanwhile, former President Mahama picks first slot on the ballot for the primaries with former Mayor of Kumasi and Finance Minister Kojo Bonsu and Dr. Kwabena Dufo picking second and third slots respectively.
I give you my support to JM, and it's a good decision for our lovely party to move further for future. You have your right to make a decision, innit? You can make your decision by yourself, so I made a decision by myself.
And later on CNR Extra, Greater Accra Regional Minister hints his outfit will not hesitate to pull down unauthorized structures that have been marked within the core zone at the Sakumo Ramsar site if necessary.
If it happens after their presentation that some of the buildings that have been sited in the core area will have to go down, we'll have no choice, no negotiation, we'll pull it down.
Once again, you're welcome to CNR Extra, which is live on City TV. You can join us with your thoughts, submissions, and comments via WhatsApp line 0204447033. As well, we are streaming on YouTube on CityTube. Jude Mensah Duncan, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Philip.
How did your week go? Though the week hasn't ended, but
it's been an exciting
last but one day to end the week. So.
I mean, it's been a very eventful week on the back of a very exciting weekend when we were at the food bazaar, up onto the visit of the Vice President of the United States, and to everything that is happening around us. I think we can't complain. It's been exciting.
Exactly. On that note, the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, has departed from Ghana. Let's bring you that insight.
The United States has announced a $1 billion investment support for African women entrepreneurs. Vice President of the U.S., Kamala Harris, made the announcement in Accra in an engagement with selected female entrepreneurs. The following report has more.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has left the shores of Ghana to continue her tour of the continent. For 3 days, Kamala Harris engaged stakeholders from different sectors of the country. She held talks with President Akufo-Addo, where she pledged her country's support to help Ghana deal with debts and economic crisis. Vice President Kamala Harris also made a short trip to Cape Coast in what was an emotional trip to the castle from where slaves were shipped across the Atlantic. She was enthused about the idea of a slavery museum and promised her support in the establishment of same. Before she left the country, Vice President Kamala, who is an advocate for the economic empowerment of women, promised a support fund for women entrepreneurs on the continent.
When we think about the digital economy, as I said yesterday, digital services are essential to 21st century economies, and digital inclusion drives growth for all people. Yet there is a gender divide in the world. So today, to help address this, I am pleased to announce here with these leaders that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, together with our administration, will establish the Women in the Digital Economy Fund, which is a $60 million global fund, which among other things will address access, affordability, digital literacy, and gender inequality. In addition, the Gates Foundation is investing an additional $40 million to support these goals. Beyond this commitment, I am also pleased to announce a series of other significant private sector commitments alongside U.S. government efforts. In total, these investments represent more than $1 billion that is being dedicated to advance women's economic participation across the African continent.
When she was done with her engagement with the women entrepreneurs, the U.S. Vice President headed for the Jubilee Lounge at the Kotoka International Airport, where a U.S. Air Force aircraft awaited. She was escorted by Vice President of Ghana, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, Foreign Affairs Minister Shirley Ayakoboche, and Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Korte. Her tour will now take her to Tanzania and later to Zambia.
And of course, Ghana is amongst the 3 countries she's visiting on the continent, that is the African continent. She started in Ghana, she's now gone to Tanzania, and she moved to Zambia. Her visit also brought about a number of strengthening of ties between the United States and Ghana. Among the promises she made is some amount of money she wants to help the country with, and also when it comes to the terrorism issues and terrorists, that is security, and also issues with women and youth. What briefly do you make of her visit in the country?
I mean, it wasn't surprising to see the Vice President of the United States come down to Africa to propagate the foreign policy of America, considering everything that is happening with geopolitics as we have it. As a person, she has very significant connection with the continent. I mean, if you listen to her story, her granddad used to work in Zambia, so she often came down as a young girl. And as a first black Vice President of the United States, like I'm saying, it wasn't surprising at all to see her visit. And it was quite clear the mandate here. Like I said, it was to push U.S. foreign policy, it was to strengthen bilateral ties with the country. And key amongst it was the fact that she put out what she intended to do, or what the Biden-Harris administration intended to do, which is to focus on women empowerment, to ensure digital inclusion, which for me was quite remarkable seeing, and also, of course, to push for equality and good governance, really. Good governance and equality was one of the key things she came here. You would recall in 2009 when Obama was here, I mean, key of his message to us as a people was also trying to push good governance. So for him, you recall that popular refrain where he was saying that there's a need for strong institutions and not strong personalities. So in the sense, you get that it is still something the U.S. is very keen on in Africa. And she also highlighted on some of the challenges we face here with regards to the challenges and the roadblocks women face with regards to economic development, even trying to climb up the social ladder, talking about the fact that even insecurity in the country continues to be a big problem here in the Sahel. So seeing the U.S. commit some about 100 million to strengthening security here, for me, is big. But like I said, it runs deeper than...
And also $1 billion for
investment to women. So like I'm saying, women empowerment, digital inclusion. When she was here, we saw engaged.
And promised Ghana to also get to the IMF bailout.
The Paris, yes. So I mean, all in all, it was a good visit. I mean, it's nice and it's important that once in a while we see some of these things happen in our country.
My take out is it's going to boost the tourism in this country.
Yeah, I mean, for her visit...
Once you visited the Cape Coast Castle,
yeah,
a lot more black Americans or people from the diaspora will be wanting to come there. But also, it's going to rake in enough money to the country. But how it's going to be kept and how it's going to be used as the issue.
She made mention of the fact that, or the chief of the area made mention of the fact that it needed a museum, a slave museum, and also called for a liaison officer. I think that was a good call, and it was swiftly accepted by the Vice President. So for me, I think it's a step in that direction. Her call for young people on the continent to dream with ambition and lead with conviction, for me, is one of the main highlights of her addresses she made in the country. So we'll be looking forward to a strengthened relationship between Ghana and the USA. It's unfortunate that other conversations sort of characterized or took quite a large chunk of the media coverage. But you can understand, because in a lot of the conversation, really, issues on human rights have also come up quite strongly. But all in all, I think it was a good visit for the young children who had the opportunity to play basketball with the second gentleman. There will be moments they'll relish for a long time for the young students and school-going children who had the opportunity to shake the Vice President of the United States of America, or to serve as an enabling motivation, really, for them to dream and know that if you're a girl, your place is not necessarily the kitchen, and all of those stereotypes we've been used to. So all in all, it was a great experience.
Exactly, it was a great experience, and Ghana is most grateful for having her visit the country. Away from that, let's go to another important issue that has to do with suicide, and Parliament has decriminalized attempted suicide.
Turning our attention to the legislature, Parliament has passed the Criminal Offences Amendment Bill 2021. Now, the bill seeks to decriminalize attempted suicide. The act suggested that a person who attempted to commit suicide but failed may be fined, sentenced to 3 months imprisonment or both by a court of law. However, the passage of the bill has decriminalized the act. City News' Ni Ayikwin Okain has more in the following report. Ni, tell us more on this.
Parliament on Tuesday passed the Criminal Offences Amendment Bill 2021. Now, this bill seeks to decriminalize attempted suicide such that survivors of attempted suicide will no longer be at risk of being arrested, prosecuted, or penalized, but rather offered medical and psychological support. This bill seeks to suggest that attempted suicide is a mental health condition and provides the opportunity for persons who may find themselves in such situations to be offered the needed assistance.
An act to amend the Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29, to decriminalize attempted suicide and provide for related matters.
Honourable members, the Criminal Offences Act, Criminal Offences Amendment Bill 2021 is now read the third time and passed.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to thank the honourable members for supporting and assisting us to pass the Criminal Offences Amendment Bill 2021, particularly the chairman of the committee, who is a co-sponsor of this particular bill. Mr. Speaker, all over the world, attempted suicide is being decriminalized in the sense that life is one. For you to decide to take your life, it means you are either going through a psychological problem as a result of which you cannot appreciate the nature and quality of the act. So
thank you very much.
I thank the committee, all the members of Parliament for supporting us to pass this particular bill.
The minority also addressed the media, urging President Akufo-Addo to direct the Finance Minister to release funds for the payments of capitation grants to public basic schools across the country.
Government should be making available to the basic schools capitation grants in excess of 106 million Ghana cedis. That is not happening. The request is not being met, and the monies that ought to go to these schools so that they can function properly are not going. This is why these days you don't hear of basic schools undertaking activities like cultural activities, like sports activities. It is clear that, contrary to what we are being made to believe, that education under Akufo-Addo or his record in the area of education is unsurpassed, is a blatant lie. Because you cannot convince me that you are not able to provide the needed resources for the foundation, which is basic. You owe capitation grant in excess of 2 years. Headmasters are having to borrow money to keep the system running. And because of that, many parents are becoming disillusioned and disappointed in the public basic schools. They are sending their awards to private schools. You can't tell me that this is an example of a president and a government which has prioritized education and, for that matter, has a stellar record when it comes to the area of education.
First Deputy Speaker of Parliament Joseph Osei-Owusu directed the Education Committee to investigate a breach of a court order restraining management of the University of Ghana from continuing with its new residential policy. This comes after a statement on the floor of Parliament by the Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee, Dr. Clement Apag, on the issue.
The order was an expert statement that the status quo, prior to the decision made by the Respondents' Residential Board on the 26th of October, was to be maintained until the substantive matter was determined. Mr. Speaker, to date, this order has been flagrantly disregarded as though same was not granted an order. Since the granting of this order, the management of the University of Ghana have refused to act in accordance with the dictates of the order. The police and other allied security personnel have been employed by the management of the University of Ghana to frustrate the efforts being made by the students to call attention to the management of the university to obey the order of the court and to reinstate them.
I think I would refer this statement to the Committee of Education to ask them to engage the university and to report back to us why the university authorities, headed by the immediate past Chief Justice, she is the chairman of the University Council. So we expect that she would ensure that the law and order, respect for the courts the sanctity of the court orders are respected. So I direct that the statement be referred to the Committee on Education to engage the university authorities to why they should not obey the instructions of the university.
Reporting from Parliament, my name is Ni Ayikwe Okain for City News.
A number of issues came up on the floor of Parliament, but amongst the lot is the decriminalization of attempted suicide by Parliament, which the Mental Health Authority has celebrated. That is a step in the right direction. Well, they spoke to the Chief Executive Officer of the Mental Health Authority, Dr. Akwesi Osei, who says this is a battle that has been there for a very long time, but finally it's been won. He's the former. And the Mental Health Authority has revealed that issues of divorce, relationship breakups, graduate unemployment, financial distress are the leading causes of suicide in Ghana. Well, some people also don't accept that or believe that this should be decriminalized.
I mean, if you want to look at it, I think it's a big win for our mental health advocates we have in the country. We understand that it's been pushed for about close to 30 years trying to decriminalize this. So for me, it's a big win, especially when you listen to some sociologists we have in the country. So Professor Joseph, his name
he's with the University
Osafo,
of Ghana.
Professor Joseph Osafo,
yes.
Professor Joseph Reverend Osafo. He's with the University of Ghana. If you listen to some of the things he's said on this particular issue with regards to suicide, you get the impression that the thought or the afterthought of a very severe punishment in an attempt or a failed attempt at suicide is what pushes a lot of people to even go very extreme ways of committing suicide. So decriminalizing it will go a long way to help, especially when in the amendment of the bill, we understand that. So for instance, when somebody attempts it and is unsuccessful, the person will be taken through some medical health and mental health assistance. So for me, that is a great step. See, suicide is a serious public health problem, and the statistics show that it is the leading cause of death for people within the ages of 15 to 30 years.
16 to 35.
35. Globally, about 700,000 people die as a result of suicide every year.
And in Ghana, it is estimated that over 1,500 cases recorded yearly.
Exactly, and these are not very pleasing numbers at all, especially when we understand from the aspects that the failed attempt at it is what drives a lot of people to go a second and fourth attempt using even more very, very extreme and very severe methods. So for me, it's a great win. Those who've been pushing for it, the propagators of this bill, we want to say kudos to them, and we plead with the media and other stakeholders, especially with the media, because reporting on suicide is supposed to be done in a very responsible way.
And I think now that it's been decriminalized, I think this is a time that education has to be intensified.
Exactly.
So if some resources or some financial assistance will be given to the Mental Health Authority that is in charge, they could go around and educate a lot more people that, well, it's not an issue that if you are in some sort of distress, you should commit suicide, but then you can seek for medical assistance and some mental health.
I mean, Philip, the reason I brought the media in is because sometimes you listen to how some sister station cover suicide stories, and it's not in the best of taste at all. So, like I'm saying, we have to be responsible as a media and covering more of these stories. We want to plead with government to focus a lot more on mental health issues in the country. I mean, go to the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, for instance, and it's in a very terrible shape. And we are saying that for all of these things to improve, we need a whole stakeholder approach.
I actually made my way there one day to the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, and I saw a very handsome gentleman there. And when I asked the officials what brought him there, it was like he's owing a very huge amount of money that he couldn't pay. He lost it in a business, and he just went off and had to come there. So it looks like a lot of people have issues that they end up getting these suicidal thoughts. But if the health aspect is being brought in, at least it's going to help a number of people not to think of killing themselves when they are in issues or they have some sort
like
of distress.
Philip, we're saying the point really is that a lot of people who have suicidal thoughts are likely to go by extreme ways when the first attempt is failed because of the likelihood of even public embarrassment and the subsequent loss coming at a person.
Especially if you look at the issue that happened at Kaswa where the guy had to climb the pylons.
Yeah, so
and he had to make sure that he...
Yeah, because when he comes back, what's the point? Am I going to face the law, or I'm going to jail? So it's a big win. It's a big win for our mental health advocates, our mental health authority. All we are saying is that going forward, let's see a lot more public education, public engagement on sensitizing people on some of these issues as and when they come.
So the education bit of this must be intensified by the various authorities. Moving on, let's go to the camp or the National Democratic Congress, when one of the flag bearer hopefuls, businessman Ernest Kweku Kobia, has pulled out of the race.
Businessman Ernest Kweku Kobia has pulled out of the flag bearership race of the National Democratic Congress, NDC. Now, this was after Kobia submitted his letter to the NDC's Elections Committee on Wednesday, March 29, on day 3 of the vetting. City News' Akusia Ochre was there at the party headquarters and brings us updates on what transpired. And Akusia, tell us more on what happened today.
It's the final day for vetting for flag bearer hopefuls here at the party's headquarters. Today, Wednesday, former mayor of Kumasi came in here at 10:50 in the morning to face the vetting committee, and he has been speaking to the media after going through that particular vetting.
I think it was very well, even though I went through some hard questions, and I really expected it. Obviously, a question that you cannot miss is my tenure in office in Kumasi. That came up. I was asked about the economy, our Social Democratic Party tenants, and how I would rule Ghana. I don't know whether I've been passed, but I'm sure they're doing the balloting today, so obviously I'll be told whether I've passed or not.
One of the aspirants, Ernest Kweku Kobia, was here yesterday to go through his vetting, is expected to meet the vetting committee for the second time. We really do not know what is happening or what specifically he's here to do, but we wait for an outcome of that particular meeting with the vetting committee. So we just got information that the flag bearer hopeful has just pulled out of the race.
I give you my support to JM, and it's a good decision for our lovely party to move further for future. You have your right to make a decision, innit? You can make your decision by yourself. So I made a decision by myself to support the old boy, and that is the best decision for the party and myself.
Were you intimidated by the vetting committee?
No way. They are all my fathers. They are all my fathers. We chatting, we joke, and we laugh. We don't intimidate anybody.
So what are you going to do specifically to help John Mahama now that you are declaring support for him? You were asked to bring further and better particulars. Did you bring them today, or you couldn't meet the criteria?
Please, I did bring what they asked me to do, and I made the decision, myself and my grandfather, made that decision.
The vetting committee, chaired by the former Speaker of Parliament, Edward Dowajaho, has been giving details on the outcome of the 3 days vetting which took place here at the party's headquarters.
I announce to you that 3 out of the NDC stalwarts who applied to have their names on the ballot paper for the presidential primaries of the National Democratic Congress have sailed through the vetting successfully. The 4th, Mr. Ernest Kwaku-Kodia, has voluntarily withdrawn from the contest this morning and has communicated this to us in a letter in his own handwriting. We have also conducted a ballot for the position of the candidates on the ballot paper for the 13th May presidential primaries. The candidates' positions are as follows. Number 1 is His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Number 2, Kojo Bonsu. And the 3rd position on the ballot goes to Dr. Kobina Dufo.
Number 1 on the ballot. I mean, everybody knows what number 1 means. In actual fact, the position that we are seeking to occupy is the number 1 position in Ghana, and is the number 1 position in the party. And we have picked number 1. We have just cemented what the people have already said. We are anticipating an overwhelming endorsement. We don't see this as an election. We are actually not going into an election. We are going into an endorsement party, and for that matter, any position would have even been okay.
We picked number 2, and I believe that it all happened for a very good reason. And as I keep saying, we are not the loud, noise-making people. We believe that we have over 440,000 delegates who are going to vote. We've been touring on them for the past 2 years, and I think it is still an opportunity for us to reach out to them and then speak to them on what Mr. Kojo Bonsu will be able to do if he given the nod to lead the NDC as their flag bearer.
I'm satisfied with the ballot because everything 3 is good. I think the Holy Trinity is 3. So we were praying that and in fact we heard it, that the 4th candidate wanted to withdraw. So we're praying that if he withdraws, we need 3. And exactly we've got 3, and we are happy with it.
So now the elections committee has been speaking also on what next after today's vetting.
We are going to give them copies of the register of voters, those who are qualified to vote at the primaries. And then 13th May, on 13th May, the primaries will take place for both president and the members of parliament.
Next week, you are starting with the vetting for the parliament.
Yes, we'll do so.
Preparations as well for that.
We are ready. We are going to do so Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Reporting from the headquarters of the National Democratic Congress in Accra, my name is Akosia Otre.
So according to the vetting committee, that is the NDC vetting committee, the businessman Ernest Kwaku-Kodia voluntarily pulled out, and now he's thrown his weight behind the PM.
He says he's throwing his weight behind the old boy. Yeah. I'm not sure who the old boy, but I mean it's pretty obvious.
SJ, because that's of yesterday. Yesterday when John Dramani Mahama spoke to delegates at Infansiman in the Central Region as part of his Central Regional tour. He congratulated him. He thanked him for at least supporting him to be the flag bearer of the party. So
I mean, Philip, like we've been saying over and over again, on this table, we believe former President John Dramani Mahama is the presumptive candidate for the NDC going into the 2024 elections. Mr. Kobia, like I've always maintained, people go into some of these races for different reasons, right? I don't, for the life of me, and by any stretch of imagination, believe that he thought he stood a chance really in the NDC.
But he needed the exposure.
So like I'm saying, people go into some of these kinds of battles for different reasons. For some, it's the exposure. For some, it's some deal they're eyeing, hopefully when the government comes. For some, it's to elevate their status in the party. So for people, it's really different reasons. And like I'm saying, if you look at the campaign of former President John Dramani Mahama. Recently, at the University of Professional Studies in Accra, he launched his crowdfunding campaign with a lecture on political party financing. I don't think he needed that kind of, he did that kind of events to contest in an election like for the NDC at the party level. His campaign has moved beyond the party. He's now looking at it at the national level. When he goes to the regions and he's campaigning and speaking to delegates, he's sending across a national message. He's taking on the government, and you can understand why it's so. In the past, go back to previous congresses of the NDC, there's always been that overwhelming support. So the post the late Jerry John Rawlings, when they were looking for someone to lead a party, remember the Swedo Declaration. So President Rawlings just held John Evans Atamils, may so rest in perfect peace, held his hands and said he's the one who wants to lead a party going forward. Since then, Fonka game 209. So every single time we are yet to see a very competitive NDC flag bearership race, and I don't think this is the one that will change anything. So it's going to be interesting days. Mr. Kobia, he has some 500,000 Ghana cedis to let go like that. That was really interesting. Like,
but you can't
like
tell.
I said, it's
like
for
it's
different
been
reasons.
stated, he's a businessman. Businessmen in the way they will try and do some little gambling there in and out. But the balloting has been done. John Dramani Mahama is one. Kojo Bonso is number 2, and also Dr. Kwabena Dufo is number 3 on the ballot papers. But May 13 is when delegates will decide. You're still watching CNR Extra here on City TV. Still to come. Greater Accra Regional Minister hints his outfit will not hesitate to pull down unauthorized structures that have been marked within the core zones at the Sakumo Ramsar site if necessary. Stay with us, we'll be back with more stories.
Creamy Plus is a fully skimmed evaporated milk. Creamy Plus is available in a shop near you.
This message has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
You're welcome back. You can join us with your thoughts, submissions, and comments via WhatsApp line 0204447033. We are streaming live on YouTube, on CityTube. Let's bring you some more stories. And 6 executives of the NDC in the Ashanti region have been questioned by the CID for wearing military fatigues.
On the NDC, 6 executives of the party in the Ashanti region The 6 individuals were invited by the police after they were spotted in a viral picture on social media wearing military camouflage during a recent campaign tour to the Ashanti region by former President Mahama. City News' Ashanti regional correspondent Hafiz Tijani reports.
The accused executives were seen dressed in camouflage during party activities
The executives include Captain Retired John Kwame Jabari, the first Vice Chairman, Ba Echamfor, the Deputy Secretary, Seth Atanga, the Deputy Youth Organizer, and Marvin Philip Fraser Norman, the Treasurer. The executives honored the police invitation on Wednesday, and their statements were taken by the CID. Ashanti Regional First Vice Chairman of the party, Captain Retired John Kwame Jabari, addressed journalists at the regional police headquarters.
But we had a problem with their invitation, because if you want to invite regional executive of a party, there's a procedure that must be followed. So we decided not to honor that invitation. But yesterday, the regional crime officer personally came to the regional office to invite us. That is why we showed up. So if it was going to be a verbal one like what they did before, we wouldn't have showed up, because the regional crime officer gave her that courtesy and came to the party office. That's why we are here today.
He challenged the police to go after other individuals who had put on military attire.
This invitation smacks of intimidation, manipulation, and harassment of NDC executive in Ashanti region. For NDC region executives. Is it because the people behind the camouflage dress, that's why they are inviting us? Our message to the police is that they must be fair and unbiased in their treatment of all the political parties. It must not be that because NDC are wearing it, they must be invited. If MPP is wearing it, they must also be invited. If Captain Smart is wearing it, he must be invited. If Stoneboy is wearing one in a military compound in Bema camp, and the military don't have any problem with it, and a former captain must be reported and invited, I have no problem with it. I know it is politics that they are doing. But I must remind them that when I was in service, I dropped the uniform before I came and did politics. So if the police and military are in dress and they want to do politics, I honorably tell them that they should drop their uniform and come and join me in politics, and let's do proper politics. But if they want to be in the uniform and be doing politics and they be manipulated by the MPP, we as regional executives in Ashanti region will not take it. We will not take it one day or not. We will continue to wear it until a competent court tells that we can't wear it. I'm telling you, we will continue to wear that dress until a competent court says that Ashanti regional executive, you cannot wear it anymore, then we'll stop wearing it. But the police are not a law on their own.
Police are, however, continuing their investigations into the matter.
The police CID says it will make its pronouncement on this matter after investigations. Hafiz Tijani, City News, Ashanti region.
So let's bring you updates on this particular issue in the Ashanti region. Hafiz Tijani is the Ashanti regional correspondent. He joins us live via phone. Hafiz, what is the update on this particular issue? How far were the investigations of the police as stated initially?
Well, so the police says they are still continuing with their investigations. They would want to contact the military, since this matter involves the military, so that they can get details of this attack, whether or not a civilian can put this attack on. But the vice chairman for the NDC in the region is insisting that it is not a military dress, and the police cannot say so, because he is speaking on the basis that he is a former military officer, and so he has exited the service and he's not going to put on that. Exactly, that is what the police is seeking to do. So they are extending their investigations to the military high command in the region for them to give them the difference between the uniform the military abhors the civilian to put on, and whether or not this uniform or this camouflage in costume is something that a civilian can put on, so they can bring the matter to rest.
So with the executives, the 6 executives, have they indicated that they are going to continue to put on this attire or this fatigue until investigations are done, or they are going to put a hold on it as of now, or as of now to ensure that, well, after the investigations, then they would maybe go back to it, or if it's been proven that it's a military attire, they wouldn't put it on again?
Exactly the point the first vice chair, Captain Richard Jabari, made yesterday when we spoke to him. He says that until a court of competent jurisdiction comes out to say that they can't put it on, they are going to continue to put on this attire, because he says that it is not a military dress. If the police is saying so, then they should bring evidence, and if that evidence is there, it is only a court of competent jurisdiction that can stop them from wearing it. But for now, they are going to continue to wear it to party functions like they did when the former president came to the region.
Many thanks for your time, Hafiz Tijani. Hafiz Tijani is the Ashanti regional correspondent, and he brought us up to speed on an issue that has to do with the putting on of military fatigue that the police CID has caught some 6 executives of the NDC in the Ashanti region and questioned them. Well, the Member of Parliament for Wa West, Peter Lanchini Tobu, who is also a member on the Interior Committee in Parliament and also a former police officer, has clarified that there is no particular legal provision barring the wearing of military camouflage in Ghana. Dude, what do you make of this?
I mean, the legislator, right, Honorable Peter Tobu, he makes a very interesting call, because when he says that, for instance, there's no legal provision that bars people from wearing military attire, and he goes on to say that if there was any, government would have taken steps to ensure that the importation of such replica into the market would have been banned by now. Just a simple Google search, the Restriction on the Use of Military Uniforms and Equipment Act 1967, right? It talks about what you can do and not do with military uniforms. So it says, well, military uniforms are not to be worn by civilians. And for me, it's a gray area. Maybe we need a lot more clarity on, because in one breath, you understand the legislators say, for instance, that military uniform used by the Ghana Armed Forces, right? And to a large extent, that makes sense. But there are other different kind of replica camouflage that are all over the market. Some are in various, some are handkerchiefs, some are boxer shorts, some are. So we need a lot more clarity on the use on
Because
some of these
I've seen
things.
some people put on this camouflage, and the military will stop them.
Exactly. So like I'm saying,
put them through some scrutiny.
and a lot of the time, it is just the military abusing really the human rights of some of these people. We hear the stories, we see it in the news and all of that. So like I'm saying, we need clarity on it, and we need to understand really what the law is saying clearly on this. And of course, like, I agree so much with what the Member of Parliament is saying, that's Honorable Peter Tobu. If indeed the ordinary person in public is not supposed to be seen to be wearing this, then we need some legislation or some law that bans the importation first.
On this, as and when the investigations from the police CID is done. Away from that story, let's bring you the story that has to do with the Greater Accra Regional Minister, who has hinted that his outfit will not hesitate to pull down unauthorized structures at the Sakumo Ramsar site.
The Greater Accra Regional Minister, Henry Korte, has hinted his outfit will not hesitate to pull down unauthorized structures that have been marked within the core zones at the Ramsar site, if necessary. He made this known during a meeting with the landlords at the Sakumo Ramsar site, in line with the decision to regularize their lands. There is more in the following report filed by Rachel Engman and read by Charles Owusukumi.
The Greater Accra Regional Security Council in October last year began an exercise to take inventory of all unlawfully erected structures in the core zone of the Sakumo Ramsar site for onward demolition. This was after government suspended moves to demolish unlawful structures for further discussions between the council and traditional rulers. On Wednesday, at a stakeholders meeting with landlords on the Sakumono Ramsar site in line with the decision to regularize their lands, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources indicated that a committee has been instituted to engage traditional authorities and owners of buildings as part of the 3 phases to pull down illegal structures at the Sakumono Ramsar site. In light of this, the Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Quartey is appealing to all traditional rulers to make sure that they do all negotiations properly in order not to end up in the grips of the law. He added that his office will not hesitate to demolish unauthorized structures when necessary.
We began an exercise that later on was misconstrued as withdrawing from the sites. We did say that the exercise was going to be in 3 phases. First of all, to remove fence walls. And then the second phase was to get the experts from Lands Commission to go and do a proper reconnaissance work on the field to be able to tell us whether a building is actually sited within the core area of the Ramsar before we attempt to demolish it. And that was misconstrued as Henry Quartey has backed down, he's run away and all that. But we always make sure that we walk on the path of the law. So today we are here, as we promised you, to look at phase 2. The information given to us then, and I'm not in a position to speak accurately to it because they are here, that when we did the initial recce or reconnaissance, we were told that over 300 uncompleted structures were actually sited within the core area of the Ramsar. Now the difficulty then was if we asked the men and women on the ground to go in and...
So ensuring that structures are not erected on the Sakumono Ramsar site, the Greater Accra Regional Minister indicated that it's going to be done in 3 phases. The first one, the demolition of the fence walls. The second one, going back to the drawing board and ensuring that they demarcate the places that are supposed to be demolished. And also after that, they would have some engagement with the traditional authorities, owners of the various buildings, and ensure that the right thing is done. What do you make of?
I mean, it's great to see the Greater Accra Regional Minister.
But this actually started last year.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's great to see him back again in his
Well, he told the Ramsar side people, we are not done, we are coming.
I mean, I remember when he started this particular exercise and when they demolished the buildings, I remember it was one of the first stories we covered on this particular program. And then we saw a very long pause. He later came out to tell us that he was charging his batteries.
Yes, that's what he said. So, he made mention of that in Ghana.
So now that the batteries, I presume, have been fully charged, it's great that he's back again, leading very important conversations. That goes to the core of our sustainability. That goes to the core of protecting our environment. And that goes to the core of making sure that we have a sustainable environment to live for the next generation. So for me, it's a step in the right direction, and I'm pleased that he's back on the grind again, taking up this very important issue.
So according to the Deputy Lands and Natural Resources Minister, Benito Usubio, a committee has been set and is going to be led by an officer from the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry to ensure that the report that the Lands Commission officials have brought up as to the places that have been marked for the demolition, they would have some engagements with the traditional authorities and also landowners.
Finally, really, I mean, now that we're understanding that they are going to do some demarcations and all of that, a humble plea is that it should be done without any fear
or favor. Exactly. You're still watching CNR Extra here on City TV. Still to come. Electricity Company of Ghana disconnects hundreds of homes from the national grid at Pamblos under the Botiano district over illegal connections. Stay with us, we'll be back with that story.
In the 25 years of sharing his story and his praise. Ministering at the Silver Jubilee edition is praise and worship legend Don Moen.
God is good all the time.
The young, sensational and anointed minstrel Moses Bliss.
Miracle no dey die, Jesus.
And the host choir, the Evergreen Harvest Gospel Choir. As always, Harvest Theatre will deliver a soul-inspiring drama performance. Join us at the UPSA Auditorium on Good Friday, 7th April 2023, 4 p.m. sharp. Tickets, single, 80 Ghana cedis, double, 150 Ghana. And all Harvest Chapel branches in Accra. Children are not left out. Children from ages 5 to 12 will enjoy an awesome experience at the HP Kids session featuring King's Kid, Louis Pascal, Kata Harry, and many more. Entry is free for kids once you purchase an adult ticket. Come, let's celebrate. It's the Silver Jubilee. Harvest praise. Get your praise on.
Welcome back. Now, the Electricity Company of Ghana has disconnected hundreds of homes at Pambros over illegal connections.
Electricity Company of Ghana has disconnected hundreds of homes from the national grid at Pambros under its Botiano district over illegal connections. Now, according to the manager in charge of external communications, Leila Abubakari, residents in the community have deliberately bypassed installed meters to consume power for free, while some are using stolen meters. The exercise was conducted under the supervision of armed personnel from the Ghana Police Service by the National Revenue Mobilization Task Force. Now, Fred Duho has been monitoring this story and has come through with this report. Now, Fred, give us more.
Currently at Pambros, one of the communities noted, we understand after a survey conducted, a number of homes so far have conducted illegal connection, which is normally called or popularly known in their technical terms, meaning the customers here have bypassed their meters. In effect, they are not purchasing prepaid for the Electricity Company of Ghana to generate revenue from the power they use in their homes. We're going to join them on this field to see how the exercise goes.
And they have linked with the 2.5 cable to the customer load cable, so that like the 2.5 cable will transfer power to this load. So the power they are consuming is not taken from the meter. It's direct. They are not paying. So I want to check whether. So you see, they have negative 10,209 on the meter.
What have you discovered here?
Actually, all the meters in this area have been assigned on the pole. By looking at this one, they have taken the supply from the pole right down to the house. And going through to verify that this meter is from Kwalebu. It's not assigned to this district, which is Botiano district. So that's what we find here.
So in effect, it will mean that maybe one of your own workers is aiding them. How would these people get a meter? They don't produce meters.
We call some people Goro boys around. Perhaps if you need meter, you have to go straight to the office. They may go to the office, they will see some people around. Those are the guys who help the contractor boys. That's how we call them. They go to them and then they give them some kind of meter which is not right from the office. So it might be that kind of people that they met.
So the Electricity Company of Ghana is leaving no stone unturned in the collection of the 5.7 billion owed the company. But when they went to Pambros, some of the residents made mention of some pertinent issues that had to do with meters, acquisition of meters, issues of they not having rendering point or places where they can purchase prepaid and a number of things. But I think that the electricity company is doing its work. But also, they should ensure that issues that would maybe push residents to do these kind of things are addressed.
I mean, granted, they have their own challenges as well, so it's to be expected. But clearly, it is just plain irresponsibility on the part of other people who've been engaged in illegal connection and tax evasion, not wanting to pay your bills, some amounting to 300,000 Ghana cedis, running into thousands of cedis. For me, it's just plain irresponsibility on the part of those people. So I'm very excited about this exercise from the managing director of the ECG and his team. That's
Samuel Dubik Mahama.
Samuel Dubik Mahama. More power to him, Charlie. I mean,
power to do more.
More power to do more. Actually, when I read the story, for instance, on the disconnection exercise,
it trended.
Yeah, I mean, because
it was number one on the trends as of yesterday.
Because come to think about it, like of all places, really. So it's you get when you read stories about Osu Barracks, then you can imagine what the situation is like in other areas where there's already the prevalence and there's the perceived notion that it happens. So it's a very serious problem. And for me, I've maintained that we are in it's a very serious problem at hand. People evading, people engaged in illegal connection. And I've always maintained that it's important that we find a way of bringing all of these people back into it because we want ECG to be profitable. So other people are saying that they should go to...
Oh, please. It's a month-long exercise, so watch out. Ensure that in your community,
but why should
if that is happening there, just do the right thing. Pay the bills if you are using postpaid meters. Ensure that you clear the debts and all that. Else, you sleep in bills.
Why shouldn't they go to Bema Cup?
Well, I don't know. I can't say it yet. Well, this is how we end today's edition of CNR Extra here on CCTV. My name is Philip Nielati. I did this with Jude Mensa Duncan. Many thanks for your time and keep watching CCTV.
The Titans are in the house, but somebody's got to go on eviction night. Keep your favorites in the game and on your screen by casting your vote. Your total number of votes is based on your subscription package. The higher your DSTV packages, the more votes you get for the season. And the same goes for GoTV. Higher packages have better chances of keeping your faves in the game. Upgrade your package to get more votes and keep your favorite housemates safe from eviction. Voting starts every Monday night and closes every Thursday evening. You can vote on the My DSTV or My GoTV app, on the Mobi site, or on the website. Be part of the conversation on our socials. Big Brother Titans, rated 18. Proudly sponsored by Bamboo and Flutterwave.
So we start the day here in Berlin, where Britain's King Charles is on a 3-day visit, his first since he succeeded the late Queen Elizabeth to the throne. It's a visit with a very political background. The British government is trying to rebuild relations with its allies in the European Union after the messy breakup that was Brexit. It's also a reaffirmation of old alliances as Britain and its European allies support Ukraine against Russia's full-scale invasion. The visit will include meetings with German political leaders, but this first day was all about protocol.
A special welcome for special visitors. Britain's King Charles III and his wife Camilla. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier welcomed the royal couple with military honors at Berlin's Brandenburg Gate. It's the first time the landmark has provided a backdrop for receiving a state guest. On his first official state visit abroad as Britain's monarch, King Charles is decades. At his residence Schloss Bellevue, the German president praised the good relations between the two countries. Today, 6 years to the day after Britain began the process of leaving the European Union, we are opening a new chapter in our relationship. Together, as friends and partners, we are now looking forward. The German president also praised Charles's long interest in environmental causes, a topic that will determine the agenda for the 3-day visit.
Well, our correspondent Emily Gordine has been covering the King's visit. Here she is speaking a little earlier.
I think it's safe to say that British soft power has arrived in Germany. It is not uncommon for the UK to use the royals as a way of, as a form of diplomacy, really. If you look at 1964, the Queen made her first state visit to Germany, and it marked the beginning of reconciliation between the two countries. And I think you can observe, you can see a similar theme in this visit, really. After years of fighting, really, over Brexit and the ongoing Brexit negotiations, you know, that ultimately, finally culminated in the Windsor framework. That, you know, we've now seen an end to this fighting, thankfully. And now, as Frank-Walter Steinmeier said, a new chapter can begin. And I think that's exactly what this visit represents. An end to Brexit negotiations, to Brexit disputes, and the start of something new. And I think the visit of King Charles is also a sign from the UK that it really values its partnership with Germany and its friendship, really. And that's reflected not just in, you know, in the King's visit, you know, but also, I think, equally on the other side, if you look to Germany, the way he's been received, a welcoming sign.
Emily Gordine speaking a little earlier. Well, as King Charles arrived in Berlin, the European Parliament was holding a special session to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement. That was the 1998 deal that enabled the peace process in Northern Ireland to start after 30 years of conflict, costing more than 3,000 lives. The approach to the anniversary has been marked by an increase in tensions, however. British authorities have raised the terrorist threat level in Northern Ireland to severe, meaning security forces expect an attack imminently. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen praised the progress made in the province since the Good Friday Agreement was signed, but recognised that not all wounds have been healed.
So today, we don't just gather for commemoration, but for a new commitment to keep working for reconciliation in Northern Ireland, in spite of all setbacks, for the next 25 years and way beyond. The UK may have left our union, but peace remains the European promise.
Well, let's look backwards and perhaps forwards to progress in Northern Ireland with Dr. Conal Parr, who's Assistant Professor in History at Northumbria University. He joins us from Northern Ireland's capital, Belfast. Welcome to DW. We'll start with the Ursula von der Leyen there. Why do you think the EU is concerning itself with an anniversary of a deal struck in a part of a country that is no longer in the bloc and has only just settled lingering issues related to the province and its departure from the EU?
Well, thank you. Firstly, thank you for having an interesting way to start this. I think the main thing to explain is that even though the United Kingdom has left the European Union, there is a strong sense in which it still has a kind of responsibility, or feels a sense of responsibility, to what's occurred in Northern Ireland in the past, in terms of a very serious and intense conflict for 3 decades and more, and of which there is an ongoing legacy. And also remembering and recalling, importantly, that the Republic of Ireland is a very proud member of the European Union and has a lot of its stake and interests with Northern Ireland bound up in the future well-being of Northern Ireland. So there's a strong sense in which the European Union, between that sort of sense of responsibility to a very valid and proud member, and also having an awareness of the past and the way that the rumbling problems in Northern Ireland threaten the future.
Right, and it's interesting how those problems in Northern Ireland, as various elements there tried to secure independence from Great Britain. It's interesting how it became international. Joe Biden has also indicated that he's accepted an invitation from the UK Prime Minister to visit Northern Ireland to commemorate the same anniversary. And President Biden has a particular interest in Northern Ireland affairs, doesn't he?
He does indeed. And now, listen, I mean, there are a number of U.S. presidents over the years of the almost 50 U.S. presidents. They reckon around a half have some kind of a connection with Ireland in their past, in their DNA, and especially, by the way, with the Northeast region, what the Americans call the Scots-Irish. So Biden is, however, perhaps the president who is most associating himself with a commitment to Ireland and with an Irish identity. That was always a part of his appeal and his base in Delaware politics and then American politics, which he's always built on, and as a Catholic as well. And obviously, going back to JFK, there are a number of presidents and even people like Nixon and Reagan as well who have that ancestry. But I think the important thing with Biden, as you say, is that he has that commitment to Northern Ireland and to looking at the situation in a way that not all presidents do. That some of them pay kind of lip service to it, but to be honest, Biden is somebody who's made it clear that Northern Ireland is, like Bill Clinton did before him, something that is very close to his heart and something that he's going to devote time and energy to. And therefore, you can see why, in terms of the Brexit negotiations around that time, Biden made a number of statements which were sort of saying that, make sure that Ireland is not shafted in any deal that comes here, and the United States will play a role in protecting Ireland in that situation as well.
OK, so now we have 25 years of relative peace there in Northern Ireland. It's easy to presume that peace is now the default and that an outbreak of hostilities is unthinkable. But is it?
I think that, firstly, I mean, it depends how pessimistic you are on these things. I'm afraid a lot of us who've spent enough time looking at Northern Ireland know that it is still a very divided society. You have to remember that there are still over 100 peace walls, as they're called, which is a bit of a misnomer. It's a bit of a thing to say, which is a contradiction in terms, but they do actually keep the peace, and there is a very divided education system, still very low number of mixed marriages, for instance, and so hostilities are always something you feel could break out in the future. There's no question that we are away from structured violence between the communities as there used to be, and I think not in any close imminent danger of that at the moment. That being said, we still worry about things. As you pointed out, the threat level was raised by MI5 2 days ago to severe, and also some of your viewers will be aware that a senior police officer named John Caldwell was shot a number of times in Omagh, County Tyrone, which had been the scene of a very well-known bombing in 1998, the Omagh bombing. So these little echoes and ripples of the past always kind of remind us that it's there.
And so, with your historian's hat on and your crystal ball at the same time, looking backwards and forwards, do you detect